Here we are, McGill University Lecture Hall for Biology 111 for part of the lectures. I'm the course coordinator and one of the instructors, Andrew Hendry. This introductory video is first going to show a little clip from last year that I recorded last year that explains the approach that I want to take to teaching in this virtual environment that we're all stuck in. And right after that, it'll show a little bit of footage from that I recorded this year that sets the stage for the way in which I want to implement that particular approach to teaching in this current set of lectures. So let's watch those first and then I'll be right back. Once it became clear that we were going to have to do virtual teaching this fall, I was casting about for the best way to try and capture a little bit of that personalized transmission of material to the students. And what I decided on was this place-based teaching approach, where I would talk to you about the natural history and geographical details of a particular location, which I could then ground the concepts for a particular class in. Now for my next lecture, this one, which is about ecology, what I wanted to do was ground it in observations made at my cabin in British Columbia, northern British Columbia. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to redo the virtual online recorded lectures that involve a combination of stuff recorded last year and stuff recorded this year to hopefully build for you the most interesting context to present to you ecology, evolution, and for my part of the lectures, vertebrates. Oh, there's a bear. And so right now we have a bear walking along as I'm giving you a lecture. And so this was just too perfect. And what I did therefore was to construct a whole bunch of observations that were centered around bears and the organisms and ecological processes that interact with bears. So let's watch a series of those observations that I recorded over 2 years, and then we will use those to illustrate ecological concepts. People tend to think of bears as carnivores, presumably running around and dragging down moose and ripping them apart and eating them. And while bears do certainly kill some moose and eat them and scavenge many others. So we've just been rafting down the river and I smelled something funny and saw bear tracks, and so over here is a place where there's either a bear kill or a animal that got buried in the sand and then was dug up by the bear to feed on. So we can have a look here. So there's the remnants of the moose, and here's where the bear either dug it up or originally buried it and then dug it up. Bears are omnivores, and omnivores are organisms that forage not just on meat or on plants, but on both. So bears feed on many things in these areas. In the early spring, they're often feeding on insects. So you can see they've been tearing away at the log to open it up to eat the carpenter ants. Other times of the year, in the middle of the summer, they do a lot of foraging on grass. They simply eat grass, but they'll also eat the berries of a large number of different species. Huckleberry patch. They're like blueberries. They're super, super yummy. The bears love these huckleberries. They'll come and just put their mouths up and strip along, like rip off the leaves and berries and just munch it all down. In this particular video here, red osier dogwood that is apparently poisonous to people, and yet bears will eat it. Now we cleared out this trail here just less than a week ago, and this tree was not here, but it's been cracked down there, and so almost certainly it's been pulled down by the bear we saw the other day that came through here and pulled this down to eat the ripe red osier dogwood berries. You might think that getting eaten as an organism would be a bad thing, but in reality many organisms want to be eaten or have parts of them eaten. Berries, they're consumed by animals and then defecated somewhere else, and that way they spread their seeds to another location. You can tell what a bear's been eating in their diverse diet through the year by either watching them, of course, but also by looking at their feces or their scats. And so here we have one here, and what you can see are berries, the remnants of berries, and you can also see grass that's in there. I told you that bears like to eat huckleberries and many other berries. And here's the evidence right here. The remnants of animal. It's just sun-bleached. Nice grass, yeah. Wow, very cool. In the fall, bears will forage on salmon to increase their energy uptake in leading into the winter hibernation, and also where mothers give birth in dens and therefore also need to nurse their young in the den. So they need a lot of nutrition and energy, and that's provided by salmon. In small streams, the bears will chase after salmon and attempt to catch them while they're live, and they have their most energy. There are tons of pink salmon in this creek, and it's a perfect place for bears to hunt. Now, Cedar's down there simulating a bear, essentially, and having no trouble catching the salmon whatsoever. But then as the fall goes on, or in larger streams, bears won't be able to catch salmon that are live, and rather they'll depend on scavenging carcasses. Tens to hundreds of thousands of pink salmon that are in this river right now, including maybe 1,000 just on our property, are all going to die within a week. The stink will be amazing, and everything around here will basically home in and use them for food. My hand back here just at random and felt something wet and moist, and you can see that in fact a salmon has been eaten here. There's just a little itty bitty bits left. Now food for yellow jackets. So the bears are rubbing on here. The bears are often peeing when they're rubbing. Wolves will also pee here. And so you've had a little nitrogen enrichment on this lower part of the tree. I'm standing below our porch of our cabin here, and what you see is an incredible flush of the growth of grass here. Right along the edge of the cabin, whereas just to the side of the porch, there isn't any flush of growth like this. And of course, it's because of the local enrichment provided by us peeing off the porch. One way you could get nitrogen is by consuming animals. Of course, most plants don't do that, but some do, most famously the pitcher plant. North America and this Pacific Northwest has a different kind of carnivorous plant, which is called the sundew. And there's a bunch of sundew here. So those little sticky hair-like projections at the end, they stick a little insect on them. And here's a video from a few years ago. I took a bit of a time lapse of a sundew that is consuming a mosquito. We've seen a lot of cool things here over the years. Moose trying to get over different parts underneath this thing. But one of my favorites is a lynx who came walking right along this cool log and then leaped off onto the other side. Lynx vary dramatically in their abundance from one year to the next. As a matter of fact, they cycle. So you'll see repeated cycles of high abundance and then decreasing, then low abundance, then increasing, and then high abundance amounts of lynx. And they seem to be linked to cycles in the snowshoe hare population size as well. In the fall, you see all of the animals, mostly moose, trucking their way down this trail to lower parts of the river. And then in the spring, you see them all coming back. And the wolves, of course, are trying to hunt the animals. So you can see them following the moose on any given day, and presumably trying to find calves or other weak ones that they can prey on. Okay, so there's a whole series of cool observations that center around bears and the ecological complexity that's associated with them and the other organisms and how they interact with them. And you heard a series of concepts and terms during the course of those videos. And now I'm going to give a couple of additional components to this lecture that unpack and explain those components and embed them with a series of other ecological concepts.